So I have chosen a project at random based on the people who turned in their homeworks from the weekend that we're going to go in and refactor because a lot of people, and myself included, are like, wait a minute, we've thrown everything inside of app.js. We should be using components. We should be using reusability. Like, why is everything inside of app.js? So I have selected a working one. What color is this? Pick my color. It works. Just to prove that it works before we refactor it. Cool deal. There we are. All right, we have a working color picker. How's that sound? So how do we want to refactor this? Where are our components? Where would the components be?
I think the sliders could be one, because we reuse those a lot for properties.
So the sliders, you say? So if we draw this out, we have our headers, we have our square, that's our color. We have our list with hearts. And we have a button, and we have our sliders. All right. So you want to make each slider its own component?
I feel like you could make one for all of them and use properties for the rest, but I don't know if that's the case.
So, like this?
Oh, no. Yeah, I guess
Or
each one would be its own instance of the same component.
okay,
is what I'm trying to say.
so more like this.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay. Does that sound good? So let's start there and work from our way up. Because remember, refactoring is always more of like an exploratory feeler kind of thing of what's a good refactor. We don't want to refunctor our code, we want to refactor our code. So if we come over here inside of the HTML and stuff, we see we have each slider is its own p tag. So immediately what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here, go into components, make a new one, and we'll call it slider. Slider. And for the slider, I'm going to grab one, and bring it over. Just straight up, bring it over. Nothing too crazy, nothing yet. So now I want to look at this. Where are our properties? Where's our dynamic values? Well, it's probably this right here, right? So this .props.label. On change, ooh, this is going to be interesting. We'll come back to this one. We have a min and a max here as well. Min is probably a safe bet. It's going to stay at 0. At least in this case it is. The max value is going to be different though. So this .props.max value. And value, we'll come back to this as well. So let's start off by making 3 of these. So now we have a component that has 2 props, label and max value. And over here in app.js, slider label equals h, max value equals 240.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you have to say.
Sure.
Why is it 240? In terms of that, the hue, as I read, so they're going around the color wheel, which has degrees of 360. So I just thought it would be 360 as the max. I mean, I did 240, but I'm just.
It's color theory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know why it's 240.
Just
It's just one of the things the hue has a max value of 240.
cool.
If anyone knows color theory and could enlighten us.
Well, I don't know why it's 240 specifically, but I know why it's not 360.
So why is it not 360?
And it's not 360 because when you have it as 360, both ends of the spectrum are going to be the same because you're looping all the way around to the same value.
Right.
I don't think 240 is the halfway point there, though, so I don't know why that's. I guess you don't want
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 180, it's like
Yeah.
180.
Yeah. So I guess
Well, that's interesting.
240 probably stops just shy of like somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Somewhere on the spectrum.
Well, who's using blueberries for blueberries for
Blueberries are weird because if you crush them, they're like purple, but when you peel them, they're green and they're like bluish on the outside.
It depends, it depends on the ripeness as well.
That's a great question. I will find out for you.
In example, I saw the HASL figure. I saw that 360.
Yeah, but that's kind of what Will was saying is how like the full 360 you get extra values that kind of might duplicate. So we'll just rock out with 240 for now, because this isn't a UI UX class. But we have our 3 sliders. We've made a refactor. Let's check to see if this refactor works. So now, what should we see? We should see our 3 sliders. We should be able to move. It's okay that it's not actually doing anything, because we haven't actually hooked anything up yet. So, added base, first refactor for slider, not working yet. Commit frequently, commit often. So now what's the first thing that or the next thing we have to do? We need to figure out this on change, right? So this on change is going to be different for each component. So this is kind of where we hit our first wall, right? Like, wait a minute, we have 3 different components. They're running 3 different functions. How can we really pass that in? Well, really what we can do is we can pass in not only values with props, but also functions. Because remember, in JavaScript, functions are just pieces of data. And these functions, what these functions are going to do, they're actually going to be modifying the state of the parent component. So with these, we can call this onChange method. We'll call this onSlide as a prop, and we'll pass it this .h value. So now, down here in slider.js, our onChange is no longer this .s value, it's this .props.onSlide.
Do you have to have the min value, or does it just assume that your min is always 0 once you hit your max?
So we've hard-coded our min here to be 0.
Okay, never mind.
If we want to make this dynamic, we could also make it this .props.min value.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it.
Mhm.
That's why I was asking that.
And really, we probably should do something like this. But then we can also check to see if it's a value. Use it. Else, use 0.
So what is the question mark there stands for?
This is our ternary.
Okay.
So we're saying if this .props.min value exists,
Then
use it. If it doesn't exist, use 0. Anastasia, you had a question?
Yeah, the whole this.props.on slide, could you not, if you're changing the function, could you not just use change function? Or if you're messing with the function?
Right here?
Yeah, to avoid having that, could it not just still be an on change with this.props.change function?
So could we name this onChange?
Yeah, and then keep it
onChange over there?
change over there.
We could, though onChange is a reserved attribute, a reserved property, and it typically starts to get hairy once we start using
Okay.
it. Is that an onChange on the slider component, or is that an onChange on the actual input inside of it?
I have it in my slider component.
Yeah, so down here on the actual input tag, it should be onChange. This is just a property that we're passing down.
Okay.
I can name this whatever I want. I just picked onside because it kind of made sense.
Okay.
So how are we feeling? So let's see if this works. Hey, it works. So now we have one last thing to fill in, and that's the value here, which in the exact same way that we did the other ones, it's no longer this dot state dot s, but it'll be this dot props, and we'll call it slider value. So over here on our slider value, say this dot state dot h, this dot state dot s, and this dot state dot l. Ooh, went away. There we go. And I can delete all of this.
So that what you just said is for the on page load, the initial color that's brought into the state.
Yep. So how does this feel?
Easy when you do it.
Yeah, yeah. And really, none of this should be shocking except for the passing of a function. Like that's the part that's really different. Because that function, what it's doing, has a child component, the slider, that's working on a state that it doesn't have direct access to.
So what's the purpose to define it like this?
For what?
Like make new JS file.
So now, in Explorer mode, we had to add a fourth slider, right? So now we can add a fourth slider for the alpha. I think it has a max value of 100 as well. We just have to define a new one of these, this dot a value. You know, we can define everything else. But now all of our slider stuff is in one place. All the styling, all the controls, all its behavior is in one place. So now our code base is a little bit easier to work on. And now the fact that this is a p tag with an input tag is irrelevant to over here. Like this doesn't matter.
It's basically the same as like defining a function so you can just call the name of the function later instead of having to type it all out again.
Yep, because we like reusability as developers.
So why didn't you have to use the percentage, or does the percentage, is it just for text clarity, or does the percent matter?
The percentage,
On like, was it the saturation or lightness?
so percentages,
Oh, okay, never mind, you haven't.
Yep.
Just not paying attention.
it's up there. I mean, but really percentages are 0 to 100.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do a 0 to 1 slider. It'll just go 1. It's like a toggle on and off. Yeah.
So I have on change is the same as your on slide.
Yep.
Right, and then but I don't have the value. Like, I didn't use value.
So you didn't need to use value. Values are really nice to have kind of feature.
That's cool, so.
Yeah. It allows us to set like an initial state and initial value. So like if we wanted to like initialize it to a certain thing.
Well, I put those numbers in, but I didn't write I did the max and the minimum.
Mhm.
I just wrote minimum, maximum, but I don't have like slider value. No, even on the other side.
So this is for the slider component that we made.
Okay, so that's new.
That's the new
I
part. Is
wasn't paying attention, but it's low.
that's so we took the inputs that y'all made on the week.
So, but you just wrote value just now?
Yep.
Okay, good.
We're like, we're gonna take the inputs because we did it 3 times and wrap it in.
Right. I saw all the board things.
Yep.
Connecting dots.
So where else is that component?
This
The list. The list is a
The list
component.
is
So the slider component, the list. We have a color history and a button. So let's make this whole section a component as well. So component, color saver, saved colors, JS, RCC. So that's nice. We've taken now just that section and plopped it right over. We see that here we're using state, this.state.yourcolor.map. That's probably going to be now props. So let's, before we just kind of randomly change stuff, let's go in and see how this is working. Save colors, save it. All right, so save your color. So we have a save your color function that's working on the state of the app.js. And what that is doing, that is taking the current H, S, and L value from the current state of the parent and adding it to a list. So that's fine, that's good. But this function is really working on the app.js state, not on the saved color state, right? And it's working because the sliders are working on the app.js state. So now we're trying to use that app.js state someplace else. So with this, we can use the exact same idea of passing a function down to a child component that operates on the state of the parent.
Could you repeat what you say that save your color is working on?
Yep, so save your color is working on the state of app.js. So it's modifying the state of the entire app.
Okay.
So now our saved colors, we're going to be passing 2 things down to saved colors. And I get the 2 things from over here. Pick first off your colors. And also this dot props. Save your color. We need to now pass it down what it's displaying and its behavior. So now this component is really still relatively dumb. This is, I believe someone brought up the idea of a pure component last week. Forget who that was. I don't know, look, I think, yes, there's someone back in that corner, I think. Yeah. This is now just a very pure component. It doesn't have much logic or smartness to it. It's really dumb. And as a developer, I like dumb components because they're simple and easy to work with. So over here, I just have to pass it your color and save your color. So your color equals this dot state dot your color, which I'll probably rename that here in a second. And also save color. So now we're passing down both behavior and data to our child component, who's not really doing much, just saying, oh, that's how I'm behaving and that's what I'm displaying. So let's see if this works. So if I change this, hey, that looks like it works. Yeah.
But how do you get it to just see the actual color?
To go from like, this is 64, 48, 46 to yellow?
Yeah. Like, yes.
I actually don't know that. That is, yeah.
Well, Will does.
Oh wait, like
Really?
the little box that displays the color next to it?
Yes.
So if we wanted that, so instead of displaying a heart, we display like the actual color?
Mhm.
Okay.
Like creating another one of those little boxes that displays it, but doesn't change. You're just tagging it into the component of the list.
Well, I mean, I tried all that, and then instead of getting separate, you see how you have like a
Mhm.
U56, then they all became
They
the
all
color.
change with the slider?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they all merged.
So let's do that. Let's
Try that.
let's try to reuse this box right here in different parts of our page. So reuse, that says component. So let's refactor this to a component first, then we can reuse it in other places.
So you didn't put the background color in the list?
Wait. Yeah, I had it like in the list. Let's see, where is it?
That's what I did.
So
I
I
put the
have-
background color.
Yeah, I have a figure with the background color like in the same like it's next to the list but with the empty tags around it, so it's doing both of them at the same time.
I
But-
put a box over there.
So let's take this box, refactored, saved color list. Make a component, we'll call this color box. .js. Yep. Because this color box is going to be this right here, which is just a div with a class on it and the styling,
That's what you did.
and it's
Yeah.
no longer
You did it big.
this dot state, but it's this dot props, this dot props. So h equals this dot state dot h, l equals this dot state dot l, and was the s equals this dot state dot s. Color box. So that looks promising. There we go.
Let's see.
All right, so now we got our color box to work. Now that we have this in a component, we can actually reuse it in other places. So where we want to reuse it is that we want to replace this or even added this list, the actual box of what color it is. So that's going to happen over here in our saved colors. We first need to import color box from /color blocks. Then inside of our li, we need to return as well a color box. So what is the color here? Console.log color. So the color is actually the string of all of that stuff. So that's all fine and dandy, but I want it in a more reusable format so I can actually pick out the H, the S, and the L. And we'll go up and clear those errors up in a little bit. So over here, where we save it, instead of saving it as a string, let's save it as an object instead. So see how we're building a string here of what we want to display? Let's abstract out the display information from the actual core data. So I'm going to comment that out for right now. So it'll be this.setState. And then we want to do your color equals this.state.yourcolor .concat. We want to use concat because we don't want to modify state. We want to add on to it hue, this.state.h, saturation, this.state.s, as well as lightness, this.state.l. Question?
I tried my hardest to use stuff like concat and map, and basically my React just told me nothing. That's not good.
Okay, can I get a little more context for that?
Yeah, I wish I had more. Basically, I tried to use the predetermined functions for arrays and strings, and just it didn't let me do anything. I was talking to Will about it. We hypothesized that since my array was blank, but then again I was adding attributes back to that array, and it shouldn't be blank. So it might be a logical error, but it kept telling me that concat and map were not functions.
So if you're getting concat and add are not functions, that means that whatever you're trying to call concat and map on are not arrays.
Okay. So it's another issue. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's one of two things. Either A, it's not defined. So here, your color here is set to initial value as an empty array.
I have that as well.
You had that? Okay.
So that's what I was.
Yeah. We'll look at it during the break.
Okay.
Because this is how you get it to work. So quick side note about these initial values. These are optional. Like you don't need to have them unless something like this. But it's really good practice to have those there. It really is. Not only does it help like default values and stuff like that, but it helps your code be a little bit more readable. As a developer coming to your component, I can go, oh, here's everything that I have inside of my state. Here's everything that this component's doing. So it keeps your component really concise and really kind of self-commenting. So whenever you actually come to a new component, you kind of have an idea of what's going on. So, where were we? We were saving our color. So we saved our color as an object. So now inside of our color box, that's still fine. Over here in our saved colors, I want to take, stealing this.
So what's the difference between your work and the previous work?
The difference here?
Yeah. Why did you change like that?
So the difference is that this one is saving the state as a string. So you have like hue colon this dot state plus such, so it's saving it as a string. This is saving just the data.
Right.
So now what this allows us to do is now we have access to the data that we can reuse it in other places. So now it's decoupled or not closely tied to how it's displayed.
So it's never to be used.
Yep. So now what I can do with this,
That will be like a array of objects.
yep, array of objects. So now over here in our saved colors, our color box, we can actually pass it over. If we check out now what our color is, we get a crazy error.
Objects are not valid as a reaction shot.
Yeah.
What is that?
Found object with keys. So this is happening on line 57 inside of saved colors. Oh, right here. So this means that we need to, instead of printing out, because remember we've changed from a string to an object now. So this thing's we're trying to print out an object, and React can't handle that. So we actually need to convert this object to a string, which is a fancy way of saying display the values. So color.h. Hue, saturation, and lightness. Color dot L. There we go. Oh, it's actually spelled out here. Hue, saturation, lightness. Yeah, now we can kind of work with formatting this a little bit. Throw a comma there. Throw a comma there. And really with this color box, but now since we have the actual hue, the saturation, and the color of what's there, we can pass those values down into our color box component that we made to actually see the color.
You know the percent size over there? The percent size?
It's right here, and
Not for
probably right there. Hue equals color.hue, and lightness, and L equals color.lightness. So now with this last change, we should expect to see a list of colors that have the color box of the color that it was at the exact time. So here's our dark blue. What is this color? Save it.
And it will save in that box.
Yep. So now as I keep on changing stuff,
Oh, see. Oh, that's cool.
and this is all because we were able to wrap up our logic, our HTML inside of a component, and now we can reuse it.
That's handy dandy.
It's very handy dandy.
And then, well, maybe for another time or whatever, but like, then what if you want to remove one?
Yeah, if you wanted to remove one, yeah, it would just only affect this one then, yeah.
A remove button. That would
Oh yeah, exactly.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So why did you put the color, the saturation, One is in color box and the other one is in the.
So this is
Yeah,
This is a-
you'll see.
yep. This is the properties for the color box.
The other one.
This is what's actually being printed to the screen.
Yeah, okay.
You can do it for sure.
Yeah, you do a
No, that's you.
yeah, like a hover, so you only see the words when you hover.
So we can do a hover now. Is
No,
that
I
really a
mean,
thing?
we're just talking, but yeah, that way it doesn't take up too much room.
Oh yeah. Like you could refactor how you
Yeah,
can play with this.
yeah.
Oh,
This
yeah.
You don't need
you don't need
really hard.
this. That's just prettier saying, oh, you have a space there. I want to put a space there. That's it.
You have space between patches. So it's lots of
Do we have any other questions from last night's homework on color slider?
Are there other things that we put in the?
Are there?
What about the A? Was there? I mean, I didn't really like go too much with it, but is there like a an actual pattern, like an image of a pattern that you use for the A, the alpha?
Oh, the opacity.
Oh,
Oh, is that just opacity?
yeah.
Oh.
So
okay.
HSA, HSL
Uh-huh.
has the fourth one A. They just kind of tack one on, and really it's a background image.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Like, what do you mean by background image itself? Like, what is? So you reduce the opacity and you increase the image of it. So that that checkered type of background that indicates transparency. That in itself is a. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Behind the background.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. I didn't really get that far. To be honest,
Mhm.
but that makes sense. So you like, sorry.
Can we try A?
We can try A. So we refactored, used refactored color box.
That's fun, thank you.
So now let's try the A. This is where things get fun. So gonna get rid of this. So if we're gonna add something to our, we're gonna add a fourth value here that represents A. This means that we're gonna have something new in state, something new that we're gonna keep track of. So the very first thing I'm gonna do is add a value here in state. So now we have HSL and A, which is awesome. Reuse this component. A max value is 100. That's perfectly fine. Now the thing we have to change.
A value.
Yes, alpha, transparency.
No. On its lines. Oh, okay.
This right here.
Ah,
Yeah, that's what's going on right now. So instead of this .l value, I'm actually just going to copy this, change this to A, change this to A, and change this to A. So do we want to refactor this too a little bit? Instead of having like 4 functions doing pretty much the exact same thing?
Sure.
Yeah, we could. If we wanted to, maybe, kind of maybe. How would we refactor this? Is there a way? Is it worth it? It is, but it isn't. And this one is like, we see like, okay, L value, I just copied this, right, and changed like 2 things. So is there a way for me to actually refactor this?
Yeah, there is, I think. Yes.
There is a way.
Yes.
So is this refactor worth it? I don't know, but I'm going to do it anyways, just to see, just to see it. So we're going to call it update HSLA from slider. So what was the thing that I changed? I changed this, right?
Yeah.
And also that as well. So I'm going to do this again. I'm at least passing in the event. But I'm also passing in the key to update. So, and I want to use the key right here instead. So this is a bit of JavaScript syntactual sugar. This allows me to dynamically set keys inside of objects. So now what I can do,
Is that already?
what I can do instead of having to do this, I can just call this dot update slider from HLA, pass it the event, and pass it A. Then we'll do it here, maybe. So this is L. This is S. And this is H.
Is it always good to rebuild, refactor? Sometimes.
So like this is more refactored code. There's an extra layer of abstraction here. I don't know if I would do this or not, but if I knew this project was like going to be part of like Photoshop or some really big image editing app, I might do this. But you could do this. There's no like right or wrong answer there.
How can I show in my console my key? Is that same? Oh,
Yep.
thank you.
So this is a fun part about JavaScript. We haven't really talked about this yet. Usually inside of our objects, it's always dot notation, right? This dot state dot something, person dot name. Another way to access object properties is using the bracket syntax. So even though this looks like an array, it's actually an object.
If it's string instead of value, then we just do the string.
Was there a reason why key was only used for A?
I use them for all of them.
But you just had the key in the update HSLA
Yep.
from slider, so you made a whole new component,
Yep, I made a new function.
new function under
Yep,
your
that was.
JS, okay.
Yep, so we saw some duplicated logic. We were taking a value from an event and storing it inside a state. So we're like, hey, let's take that duplicated logic, throw it in one function, and then call that function from every place else.
And
So
also,
he refers to HSLA and all of
Correct.
those different.
Yep.
and also we can we could should call direct the method.
Yeah, we could directly call this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we've created this, these are actually no longer necessary. And we could just call this directly from down there. If we wanted to. Let's see if this works, and then we'll go one step further. Because you need to make sure your refactors work before you celebrate. So this should still work. This shouldn't break. I know that's a low goal, but this should not break. Hey, that one works. This works. And this works. We haven't hooked up this yet, so this is... That's a fun bug.
Oh,
Ooh,
you're getting two cursors from it as well, or maybe that's just the lag.
there's just the lag. But
And
when I
because
click this bottom one,
you
it
didn't
changes.
change. You didn't change the onslice for that.
Haha. Yep.
There you go.
There we go. Now it should work.
Nice.
But now I'm going to actually delete these ones altogether. And then down here, what we're going to do is we're going to use an anonymous function. Yeah. H.
Can you remind me what that key thing was where you could like highlight everything as you move the cursor over instead of having to like
That?
yeah.
But like every other instance of the same.
Well,
Word.
I meant like when you were doing the word one letter at a time, highlighting it one letter at a time when you clicked. So
Like that?
yeah, that
Oh, shift left and right.
shift left and right. Got it.
This is L. And this one is A.
When do you need to use
An anonymous function.
yeah, because one day I was trying to use like without,
Mhm.
it doesn't work. I have to break it down my,
So if we didn't use an anonymous function here, if we would just use something like this right here, what's happening is that React is getting here, and because we see the parentheses here, it's automatically running the function.
oh, okay.
So we need to put it in the state. This has to be a reference to a function, not a function actually being called. So it needs to be an anonymous function. Let's see if this works before we break it. Woohoo! Cool deal. So, how are we feeling with this? Do I expect junior developers to make this? No. But as long as you're following along with me, that's what I'm looking for. So we've taken our logic and refactored it and we've reused it a little bit. So if we get rid of alpha tag, that's what we're doing.
So
Yeah,
the
that's good.
event
Yep.
could be just empty
Right here?
Yes.
No, it has to be event.
Event.
Because we're passing the event into the function. So now we actually need to hook up alpha, which we're already saving inside of state. Let's verify that. Yep, the A is changing, so that's awesome. Again, I highly recommend downloading the React DevTools. If you haven't yet, you should. Makes your life as a React developer is a lot easier. So now we need to actually apply this somewhere. Well, luckily for us, we have our color box here. So our A is going to be a value from 0 to 100, right? But it's actually a percent. Well, it's actually a value from 0 to 1. So we need to take that alpha, right, and convert it to a 0 to 1. Am I right on that?
You can work also in 100%.
Can I?
I read about that.
Okay. So let's test that theory. Before we do anything dynamic, let's just hard code it first. Because we need to actually test and make sure we know where we're going before we go there. So now that
you have an HSL and not HSLA on that. I don't know if that matters, but I think it does.
it doesn't.
Cool.
It shouldn't.
Should
Browsers are very forgiving.
cool.
Because A, that color is different. And if I come in here, is getting converted anyways. So that's awesome. Now I just need to make it dynamic. So again, this dot props dot A with the $sign on that side.
Yeah, that's what I had to hit with that for
Yep. If you ever for all y'all who are gonna take C#, this and we get to string interpolation, it's much easier than this. The syntax is much prettier. And like you'll flip tables. At least I did because it was so much easier. Anyways, back to the, so now we need to pass down the A wherever we have the color, right? Which right here, alpha is this dot state dot A. Ta-da! Hue, saturation, alpha, lightness, and alpha. And A equals this dot state dot A. So now with this change right here, it should actually work now. Hey, and it's gone.
What's that second little box?
That is the list. It's just a placeholder for the list. So now, which we'll come back to that in about 2 seconds if you remind me. Because we can actually hide that until the list actually has something. So now that we have this color blocks, let's also do this in saved colors. Just add it right here. Color.alpha. Alpha color.alpha. So now we should be able to save it with our other saved colors. Awesome. Woo, it's working. Now for the background color, the background image. Does anyone have a good transparent background image that they can send me real fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, send me a background image. But really, all this is a background image that is on that that file.
You say the green, the black and white.
Yeah, the checker box. So this color X. We're going to say background image URL, and this would be images / not heart, transparent.
Send you.
Box.png.
Another one.
That will be good enough.
Okay, I sent both. I think Dana, this one is better.
Where did I download it? Oh yeah, that first one's better.
The second one,
The first one.
really?
First
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
All right. So we got our box.png. That is now a background image of our color X. We got color X by the class that was on this div. So now, if I refresh the page, looks like we got a little bit of debugging to do. Background image, that looks right.
How do you take the error about the key on the list?
About the key.
Yeah.
So that is a relatively simple fix. Does anyone have an answer for that? The error is this key error right here.
Oh, you set an ID as like props, like key in the
And
component.
what can I?
Yep. So if we recall everything, every time that we do a map, each item inside of that map has to have a unique key. Has to have some sort of unique key.
I know that,
So
but
here there's no ID, right? Like there's no real thing unique here. Well, really map takes two parameters, not one parameter. The second parameter is the index. So you can do key equals I here, and that's actually a unique enough key for this all to work. This I is the position we are inside of the array. So it's going to start off at 0 and go, well, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's going to count up. So, squiggles there?
Oh, yes.
Because we want that in JavaScript. We want we're going from HTML to JavaScript. So now if we add the color, our error goes away. I feel like we broke something. So why did that suddenly break? The background image broke it. So with that in mind, so my thought process now is don't put the background image on the actual div. Put the background image on a div outside of the div, onto a parent container. So class name equals color box parent. I'll get back to you with why this is not working. That should be working right there.
Is the background color of the pick my color thing, like for the whole box, getting in the way of it? Like the big pink box?
Unless it's background, it's background size. That's exactly what it was. Because see this picture? I'm guessing the upper right corner is a white square.
Sure.
That just happened to be the same size as our white square. So background size contained. Then we can save it. Whew. Div.
Wait, what if you went back to not having it outside and then just having it on there but having it be contained? Or is that not going to work out?
That works. So you actually don't need this, don't need this or this. And there we go.
And what if we wanted a random color?
So random color on page load would be randomizing these hard-coded values here. We'd have a method that says, added transparent background. So now on component did mount, what we would do, we would have this dot set state. H is math dot floor, and it's math dot random. times 240. So we're just saying, hey, whenever the component loads up, randomize the colors. There we go.
Wouldn't need to put that in. We wouldn't need to put that in the new component page. Or could we?
So like on its own component?
Yeah.
Nope, I'll just put it right there. Because this is behavior for app.js.
So is it randomizing the background or is it randomizing just the color that the picker itself?
It's randomizing these values right here. So if I refresh the page, those values should be different.
So it picks it for you?
Mm-hmm.
They're not displaying.
Yeah, so
Do we still need to keep the initializer?
Ah, that's background image. That background image. But we know how to fix this, right? Put it back what we had. Color box parent. Color box JS. There we go. That's better. I mean, that's mostly white anyways.
I put another the chess block. I create another container, a big one, put it inside. I can see that change.
So like you have this in the second place as well?
Yeah, second place.
Yeah, you can.
So there's a way that you can do it where you have a button that says random, and then you have a button that you can choose. So
Yep.
if you like doing random, you can do random.
Yep, so we can take this logic here, wrap it in a function, select random color. Button on click.
So cool. So cool. I need to see what they mean.
That was the venture mode.
Oh, this is the
Yeah, this is adventure mode. And,
you can save that.
mm-hmm.
I like that you use the sliders too. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's moving the sliders because of this.
Slider value.
Yeah, because of slider value, and because inside of slider, we're setting the value here. Someone asked me that earlier, why are we doing that? But that's why.
Yes. Cool. That is. And then you also said remind you of hiding the box.
Yep. So this is another, so this is a way, so Chantel brings up that if we refresh the page and we have nothing here, we have this weird white box here, right? Like, what is this? So now let's make it so that if there's nothing inside of that list, we don't show it. So in JSX, we've probably found out by now there are no if statements. So what that means is that we can't do something like this. If this dot state dot your color dot length is greater than 0, then render out this, right? Have we tried this before?
Yep.
Yeah, this doesn't work. The reason being is that React is expecting inside of those squiggles it to evaluate down to a single value. So no matter what happens, it's always going to say what's that single value from those squiggles, and I'm going to put that on the page. That being said, with that knowledge, what tool do we have that is an if statement that evaluates down to a single value?
A map.
Ternary.
Yeah,
Oh,
the question in the back, in the colon.
Yep. So we have a ternary, which now takes our logic of an if statement and put it on one line. There's actually something else in JavaScript that is a syntactical sugar on top of that. So that's my handy dandy whiteboard here. So forgetting this for a second. So we know the double ampersand, right? So if we have A and B, right? We know that this is going to return true, right? What it really returns is a truthy value. And it returns the first value of what it is. So if A is true and B is true, it's going to return B. It doesn't return true, actually, it returns a truthy value. But if A is false, it's going to return A, or nothing. So we can use this short-circuiting logic as a built-in if statement into our code. So what we can do here, instead of going something like this, actually we can use a ternary here, my bad. I forgot this is actually logic. We can do this dot state. If that's true, then return saved colors. Else, return, well, really nothing. Now we can do something like that. So if there's nothing there, return this. If there's something there, return our list. So now our random box is gone until, and our button's gone too.
So you have to separate the button.
Yep. So saved colors. Which was not that hard anyways, and probably should be separate anyways. Where's my button? No. There's my button. So now as long as there's nothing inside of that list, but as soon as there's something inside of that list is going to show. Yes?
Okay, so the question mark syntax and colon
Yes.
is the if else of
Yep.
JSX.
Yep.
Only when you're using a this dot state.
So it's only whenever you need to use an if statement inside of your render function.
Okay.
So like here, we can put a little bit of logic there, right? We're like, hey, if we have something in our list, show the list. If we have nothing in our list, don't show the list.
So you'd use it for mainly things like lists or what else?
Yeah,
would you use
it's
it for?
like default values if something doesn't exist yet. So like a shopping cart icon. If there's something in my shopping cart, display how many items. Else, maybe show an empty shopping cart or a button that says add to my shopping cart. So it's any time where you have this conditional rendering. That's a term that I'll probably come up with last. Conditional rendering. If this, show this, else show that. That's where we're going to use this ternary kind of logic. And this is all because React is expecting one value here.
single quote, empty single quote instead of the.
We could, yeah, like we could put something like that as well, and say give me nothing. But this will actually put an empty character in your HTML. This will give you nothing in your HTML. Minor difference, but it's up to you. As long as this is nothing, and really, we can actually probably return like no colors saved yet. We'll put that in like a p tag. Something a bit more conditional rendering-esque. Just saying if there's no color saved, actually tell the user, hey, no color saved yet. So like if we were making a to-do list, we could have a nice little message that says, hey, you've done your entire list whenever it's empty, or whenever it's all crossed out.
And then what if we wanted to make a button that changes the background color of the actual button?
Of like back here?
Yeah.
Or back here? Or like back here?
Yeah.
Well, so you're gonna have to somehow get back up and affect the body, or really make this div. That's the ID root in your entire app. Make that 100%, 100%. And then the same way that we're doing this styling here, or where is it? This kind of same logic would be on the app.js as well. So it's 11:20, so we went a bit long with the review, but I'm actually really okay with that. Let's take a 12-minute break, come back at 11:35, and we will continue to work on another app using state and really working with passing stuff around, refactoring, and going from there. So 12-minute break, back in 12 minutes.
I have a question about copying text to the